Hey, what's up, Impact? Anthony V, your Student Ministries Pastor, once again bringing you to our one-off message about rest. And I hope that you guys take this message seriously, because rest is super important for us, especially right now in this moment when we're stuck at home and we feel like we should be rested because we may not be able to be going out and doing all the things that we normally do, but yet for some reason we find ourselves exhausted, right? I know that school's out and some of you guys may have gotten jobs, maybe even gotten some hours cut off because of COVID-19 and this back and forth, ever-changing mandates that keep coming out about open churches, open restaurants, starting to slowly open up and then closing back down again because the numbers are shooting up. All these things, and you find yourself stuck inside, and it feels like you're arrested, that you've been convicted and you're in jail. And that's the title of this message is Arrested, and it's -AR, rested. In other words, are you rested? Because it's so important that we're rested. It's not only good for us physically and mentally, like I just said a second ago, but spiritually it's so important for us. So important for us, as a matter of fact, spiritually, that God rested on the seventh day, not because he needed it, because he wanted to show us an example that we all need to rest. Now, I don't mean that I want you guys laying around, not doing anything, hanging out, because being unproductive is not being rested. Being unproductive is the exact opposite of what God means when he wants us to be rested. He's not saying don't be productive. It's crazy because you can find yourself at the end of a long day getting nothing productive done and still find yourself exhausted, stressed out, and even more tired than you did before. So take a second and ask yourself this question. Think about an unproductive activity you do during times of rest that leave you feeling unrested. Now for me, it's TikTok. I love watching TikToks. They're hilarious, but I tend to watch them when I should be resting. For instance, at night when I should be going to bed, I find myself watching them till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? And now I've got to be up 3 hours later, and then it really, really ruins my day. Or how about another one is, excuse me, another one is like I wake up early in the morning, I do all the yard work, I'm tired, like I'm gonna go take a nap. I go to lay down the nap, I'm not quite fully relaxed yet, so I'll open up TikTok, I'll start watching it. Before I know it, my nap time's gone, I've got to get up and I didn't rest. And so for me, an unproductive activity I do is TikTok. Now I'm not saying I'm not going to do TikTok anymore, I'm not saying anything negative against TikTok. I still like TikTok, but I need to figure out how I can do that activity where it doesn't affect my rest time. And so since COVID-19 happened, and things have changed, right? Since week 1, literally we shut our offices down, the church shut down, and we found ourselves working from home. And it was a crazy thing is because you would think that I'd feel rested working from home because I wasn't coming in the office every day, and I wasn't, we weren't running midweek services till 10 o'clock at night. We weren't doing our small groups, we weren't doing Sundays, all these things. And so I was like, okay, well, I should feel more rested. And so I found myself going through the whole week and then on Friday feeling exhausted. Like, why am I so tired? I mean, I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I drink some coffee, eat breakfast, open my laptop, I'm on my laptop, on my phone, doing all my work, I'm researching, I'm looking at literally COVID-19, what's going on, numbers are going up, and I found myself consumed by that. Watching CDC, figuring out when are we going to be able to open church next? Are we still going to be able to do summer camp? And so all this stuff was constantly flooding and flooding and flooding. And my brain and heart were so tired, so exhausted. So I wasn't surprised at the end of that first week when I looked at my activity, my screen time, that had gone up almost 40%, 39 to 40%, right? That first week. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then now, months later, I find that my screen time is almost double. And then I'm asking myself, why am I so exhausted when I'm working from home? See, it's crazy because all that screen time, you would think that my activity on my phone and my laptop would be productive, but literally 0% of that increased time was productivity. And 0% of it was restful. That added time that I added on, it was just added time that I was doing on TikTok or other things, because the things I would normally do on my phone or my laptop, with the exception of a little bit maybe of my recording right now and uploading, which is not very much time, was all outside of what I would normally do during a work week. But see, I just didn't stop throughout the work day. From the minute I opened up my laptop and started counseling and emailing and texting and researching and making videos, till the time I went to bed, I never got away from the screen. So we have to remember that rest is so important. In Genesis 2, 1 through 3, hope you guys just pause me and get there on your iPhones, your Androids, whatever device you're using, or your Bibles, your actual real book Bibles. Open those up, Genesis 2, 1 through 3, and see this is where God shows us an example of resting. So the creation of the heavens and earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation. So he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all his work. Now see, like I said a second ago, God didn't need to rest. This was an example of us to follow. This is an example of what we had to do. Resting is so important that it was in the Ten Commandments. The original 10 laws that God gave us to be healthy and respectful and responsible, the very 10 Commandments, rest was in there. He divided into two things, right? You had how we should interact with God and how we should interact with other people. And out of all those things, rest was in there. So in Exodus 20, 8 through 11, write it down, look it up later, but Exodus 8 through 20, he talks specifically about resting, how important it was. And literally the Jewish people were to rest on Sabbath day. God knew that we need to be rested, not only mentally and physically, but for spiritual growth. We needed to rest. So we have to rest. Rest doesn't mean inactivity. It doesn't mean that we sit around and we don't do anything. It doesn't mean that we just veg. That's not what it means. You can rest from work and still do things to refresh you, right? Think about it. What are some activities that you do that help you feel refreshed? Like activities, things that you physically or mentally do that help you feel refreshed. Now, there's a couple of those things I can think of off the top of my head. One of them is hiking. I love to hike. For some reason, it helps me get out my frustrations. It helps me get out my anxiety. When I can go out there, I know it's considered an exercise, and you would think, well, how does that rest you? I mean, you're going out and you're hiking 3 or 10 miles or whatever it may be. How can you feel rested? See, for me, it's that mental escape. I can get out. It doesn't even have to be in the mountains. It can be in a local trail. It can be around the neighborhood where I can just get away and I can literally hike that frustration away. I can literally like jump on boulders and play in the creek, and all that frustration leaves me. And so when I'm done hiking, I feel rested. That physical exertion is really helpful to relax me. On the other hand, when I can't hike and I can't get away, another activity I do is I love to sketch out designs and plans. I love to get out my sketchbook, and because I take the thoughts in my head of all these cool things I want to do, or what I think are cool anyway, and I sketch them out. And then once I'm sketching those things out, I build them, or I'll set them aside until I have time to build them. And that really helps me mentally rest. When I'm taking a break from everything else, when I do that, I find myself very much rested in that moment, because for some reason, it helps. And so those are two things that I do that are activities that I do that help me feel rested. One important aspect to understand, though, is that we have to include rest in God. We need to rest in God. It's important that we spend time with God, that we spend time in His Word, that we spend time in prayer, because over here, all this activity we're doing and all these requirements, it's a choice, right? It also has to be a choice to include God in those activities. It also has to be a choice to rest in God. The reason why I say that is that now that we're stuck at home, doing nothing and being frustrated and tired, should we waste all of our time going on hikes and watching TikTok and designing things and with Netflix? Of course not. We need to spend time resting in God. And there's nothing wrong with doing those other activities. For me, hiking and sketching out stuff and watching TikTok and watching Netflix. But see, we need to make sure we rest in God, because those activities, they don't benefit our relationship with God. They don't benefit my soul. The only way they can benefit my soul, my relationship with God, is if I include God in those activities. And so whatever that may look like for you, if it's including God in your TikToks, then hey, that might be a good thing, because then it makes us think about what we're watching. And are we watching hateful and mean things? And should we avoid certain things? Because see, if we think about this, if our rest never includes God, then it absolutely can't benefit our soul. We need to rest in God. And we need to, Jesus promised us rest for our souls. But see, we have to get it through Him. Now, we have to, if we call ourselves followers of Jesus, we have to get our rest through Jesus. We need to include Him in everything we do. He was a rabbi. He was a teacher of the Jewish faith, right? And He had disciples that followed Him. And the faith they had in Him, and the fact that they believed Him, and they rested in Him, and they followed Him, and they included Him in everything they did. See, all those things, it helped them grow this relationship that they had, that where they felt rested in Him. Which is why Jesus said that He will take up the yoke of burdens from you, that He'll walk with you through your troubles, and He'll walk with you and make sure that your soul is rested, and that rest comes through Jesus. Here's the thing though, that when you follow Jesus closely, when you spend time with Him, and you try to be more like Him, more like who He has created you to be, it's restful. It is restful, because you get this sense of peace that you only get when you're doing what God has called you to do. My soul doesn't get weary and tired and worn out and struggling when I include God in everything I do. When I include God in my rest times, when I hike, and when I design and build things, and when I spend time in His Word. My soul does not become tired and weary. The idea is that when we plug into God, we plug into the ultimate energy source that continues to give us fuel. So then, what are some ways that you can rest in God? I want you to think about this. What are some ways that you can rest in God? How can you rest in God? Obviously, we can rest in God through our Bibles and through praying, but what are some of the other ways that you can rest in God? Maybe you can go through some old pictures where God gave you blessings and fellowship. Maybe you can pick some verses, your favorite verses out, write them out, and put them around the house. And so when you see them, it reminds you of how God has blessed you, or how it encourages you to rest and to stay away from things that are not good and not energizing, right? How about remembering the things from camp? Maybe there's some old notes that you took from summer camp or a retreat or for a mission trip. Pull those notes out and reread through them and get back to that moment when you spent literally a ton of time with God and you knew and you felt that He was saying something to you. Get back into those moments with God. See, those are things that we can do in this moment right now when we've got a lot of stuff on our hands. We're feeling exhausted because we're filling our time with things that are not necessarily bad, right? But things that maybe we don't need to be filling our time with, and that we need to focus in a different direction so that we can feel rested. See, if you think about it, it's crazy as I finish up here. This is a perfect time for us to rest. With the pandemic going on and no school going on right now, and maybe some of you have jobs and maybe cut back hours, this is literally the perfect time to find rest in God, to figure out what works best for you, to prioritize it. Because see, when you do that right now and you get into this rhythm right now during this time, when this pandemic's over and we go back to normal life of school and church and friends and family, you'll have built this schedule where you will feel rested and you won't feel exhausted and tired anymore. Guys, I know for a fact you guys are so busy with so many things going on in the school years and the summers that you guys come exhausted. We've talked multiple times. You've told me, I had many times you students tell how exhausted you are. Like, there's so much going on. We're in a moment right now where there's really not a lot of that going on, but yet we still feel exhausted. Prioritize your time with God. Refresh your soul. Prioritize your time with the things that you're doing. Your schedule is waking up, going to bed, so that when this is all over, you're back. You literally designed this schedule where you feel rested and you feel recharged. Honestly, like, I truly believe that if you put time into figuring out this good, restful use of your time right now, when the time comes and this is all over, it'll be a lot more restful. It won't be as stressful. There won't be so many things going on because you have figured it out. We're trying to do the best that we can and helping them any way that we can. But see, like following Jesus, you have to choose to rest. You have to choose to be engaged by the things that we post on our Instagram and our Facebook. You have to choose to watch the ISM YouTube channel or Impact Community Church's Impact Community Church's YouTube channel. You have to choose to hang out during the midweek Zoom meetings. While I know Zoom meetings are exhausting right now, and because you've done so much of it, it feels exhausting. But it's a time where you can interact with your peers that you haven't been able to see during this time frame, and your leaders who love you guys and want to spend time with you guys and want to talk to you and walk through stuff with you. ISM staff and myself, we're going to continue to start posting stuff, encouraging you guys to hang out with God, to get rest and figure out that schedule. And I hope that you guys take this seriously and you do it. And figure out how can you rest and not be unproductive resting, not slouching around, laying around, doing nothing. Oh, Anthony told me to rest, so I'm going to lay on the couch all day. No, guys. How can we figure out a way that you can rest your soul in God? You can rest your body physically by going to bed on certain times, waking up, get yourself on a schedule, right? And mentally rest yourself so that you are ready to roll as soon as this pandemic's over. I love you guys. I miss you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this message and you really give it the thought and ask yourself those 3 questions so that we can figure out how we can be rested in God, because He wants us to be rested. He was the example in the beginning of creation of earth. Jesus said He was rest for our souls. That's what He promised us. The rest is literally history. But even if it's history, it propels us into a better future if we are rested. So guys, get your rest. Get your rest in God. Get your rest mentally, physically, spiritually, because I want us to literally hit the road running as soon as we're back in this garage, as soon as we're back going to our summer camps and our winter retreats and all the things that we have planned. I want you guys to come rested and ready to rock and roll. So you guys have a great week. I hope that you visit us this week on our midweek Zoom meetings, and I hope that you guys visit us next week as we kick off a new series on our ISM YouTube channel. You guys have a great week, a great weekend, and hope to see you guys very, very soon. You all take care.